You're watching Make America Think Again, hosted by Sunni.
What's going down, everybody? Thank you for tuning into this live. I know that feelings are heightened, centered around this conversation. I myself have had a few moments of just being pretty frustrated with the lack of critical thought. So I'm not here to pick sides. I'm here to ask questions. Over the past week, we have watched the U.S. and Israel launch strikes, on Iranian nuclear sites. Fordow, how do you say it? Natanz and Isfahan. These are some difficult things to say, but we're being told that this was necessary to stop Iran from building a bomb. And I can't put it out of my mind that we've heard these things before. We've heard weapons of mass destruction. We've heard dangerously close. And these phrases carry weight and they carry history that we are actively being asked to forget. And I'm going to play a few clips for you here throughout the show. But I wanted to start out with this one. And you guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. I ask that you please share this. Let people know that I'm live. Let's hop into this.
On about 12 months to enrich enough nuclear material for a single nuclear weapon.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken is warning that Iran is potentially just months away or less from nuclear breakpoint.
Iran is 2 months away from a nuclear weapon, and it's a victory to get them 1 year away.
Iran could be less than a month away from building a nuclear weapon.
Netanyahu has made 2 tough-talking TV appearances, saying that Iran is just months away from making a nuclear bomb.
What is important to understand is that you have to dismantle the entire terror empire, and especially before its main practitioners, the terror states of Iran and Iraq, acquire nuclear weapons. And this, I think, has been a wake-up call from hell. It is telling us, you have the power now to act.
Take Iran about 12.
Did you guys just hear that? Now, the last time we put together a compilation like this, very low volume. Wait, my volume is low? I'm sorry. The video or me? You guys let me know. Yeah. Somebody said very low volume. Can you guys not hear me? I hate when this happens. And I really can't control it. I'm hoping that I'm louder. But I need you guys to let me know in the comment section. Am I loud? All right, cool. The last time we put together a compilation like this, it was the media talking about COVID and how there was 2 weeks to stop the spread. They were all uttering the same message. And we can see it right here through the clip that I just played. They're all uttering the same exact message. Iran is dangerously close to creating a weapon of mass destruction. Like I started out saying in this live, I am not here to pick sides. I am here as a concerned American who experienced 9/11 and the invasion of Afghanistan, and remembering all these things that happened, and then I'm actively being told to ignore these things that I knew happened. So for the people who just popped in here, I'm going to play this one more time.
Of months to enrich enough nuclear material for a single nuclear weapon.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken is warning that Iran is potentially just months away or less from nuclear breakpoint.
Iran is 2 months away from a nuclear weapon, and it's a victory to get them 1 year away.
Iran could be less than a month away from building a nuclear weapon.
Netanyahu has made 2 tough-talking TV appearances, saying that Iran is just months away from making a nuclear bomb.
What is important to understand is that you have to dismantle the entire terror empire, and especially before its main practitioners, the terror states of Iran and Iraq, acquire nuclear weapons. And this, I think, has been a wake-up call from hell. It is telling us, you have the power now to act.
What should people do when they remember things like this? I need some advice, because there's a lot of support. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of support and people who are understanding my takes. But there's a lot of people who are just pretending that I am purposely railing against Trump for the sake of railing against Trump. And then they're actively acting like we didn't experience the whole lie centered around weapons of mass destruction. We did. I got another clip I want to play for you. Because these are the things that we are actively being asked to ignore. And it really bothers my spirit that we're being asked to do this. Why?
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years. If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in...
Dog, here's a question I have. All these years, was Iran ever actually making a nuclear bomb? Is there evidence to support this claim? And why is asking that question enough to get you attacked or labeled anti-American? I got told that if I don't support Trump, that I am somehow, I'm not MAGA anymore. I was like, what? Now, I don't even care if people refer to me as MAGA or not, because I think it's silly to place these terms on yourself, right? But we can't ask questions? This is about the truth, not tribalism. The truth. If we listen to all of the intel that came out, if we listen to Tulsi Gabbard and her speech, what she said when she addressed the nation, if we listen to the IAEA director come out and say these things, and I'm going to share all these things with you. Here's the first clip. This is the IAEA director. Because I'm having to kind of answer these questions myself because I'm not actually getting an answer. If they were making this bomb, wouldn't it be known by now? Here's another clip.
I think it was an important consideration. I understand what you're saying, but the fact that they continue to cite this report, based on your assessments, I mean, given what the U.S. intelligence community has been saying, and it's contradicting what the Israeli intelligence is saying, the Americans have continued to say, and Tulsi Gabbard said 2 months ago to the Senate Estimates Committee, the intelligence community has continued to say that we don't believe that Iran at this point in time is trying to weaponize. Is that your assessment as well?
Well, that was not in the same way. We have different mandate, different approach than the national intelligence of a country. For us, on the basis of our inspections, on the basis of our own evaluations, we came to the conclusion that we could not affirm that there is any systematic effort in Iran at the moment to manufacture a nuclear weapon. While we say that, at the same time, we say Iran is enriching 60% uranium, the only country in the world doing that. So there were elements for concern. But as to saying they are building manufacturing a nuclear weapon, no, we didn't say that.
So if they're not building a nuclear weapon, and there is no evidence to prove that they are, why are we going in? Why are we going in and accusing them of doing so? And we're using this as a justification to go in and do what we just did. And I'm talking about the United States. I'm talking about Israel, right? If all of these departments are saying they're not working towards making weapons of mass destruction, then why are we acting as if they are? This, you can't gaslight people, right? And tell them, like, you can't pee on somebody and tell them it's raining. You're not actually being pissed on. It's It's just raining. Don't pay attention to all of the things that have happened before in history, because history doesn't matter anymore. And I thought that was absurd when I heard Gutfield say that. He came out and said, maybe there just needs to be some sort of reset or wipe. I'm gonna pull this up for you. I'm gonna show you all these clips because this is wild how so many people are being attacked. And I've seen this on social media. So many people are being attacked for asking questions, for not quite understanding, wait a minute, do they have it? Do they not? And then we have the president saying that it was a success. We hit the facilities. Did you destroy the facilities? Is the threat eliminated? I had somebody tell me today that there is no longer a sleeper cell threat in America. And that the FBI has completely taken care of it. Let me pull this up. Hold on. I thought I had this one pulled up, but I don't. This is wild to me. Check this out. This is Greg Gutfield.
This is a tough one. You know, is Trump's actions a violation of the Trump doctrine, which is America first? I think that's the debate that's kind of raging among the right. But you elected Trump because you trust him. Yep. He's been consistent on everything, pretty much everything here and there. He's directionally consistent. I don't remember him being for any wars. He was outspoken about most of them. So I think to say, oh, now he's a neocon is unfair. He wouldn't do this unless he thought it had to be done. So you kind of have to give him the benefit of the doubt, which you cannot do with Iran. Iran is like the T-1000, in the second Terminator movie. You knock down its nuclear capabilities and it reconstitutes itself. And so your only hope is that you make the time it takes to reconstitute longer and longer. You're not kicking the can down the road, you're kicking Tehran down the road. And it's like whether or not you want to do it now, you have to weigh the benefits. I don't want to sound wishy-washy, but, it's all about frame of reference. Israel has the Holocaust. That is their frame of reference. This is not going to happen again. If Israel was around before, there wouldn't have been a Holocaust. But then the other frame of reference is Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan. We were promised an end to that. So somehow you've got to start fresh with this and try to push the backstory of history off on the side. I don't know if that's possible, but, if you're going to trust somebody, I would trust Trump and not Iran. So we shouldn't reference history. History doesn't matter. And we should forget Libya. We should forget Afghanistan. And we should forget Iraq. We should forget the fact that we had George Bush come out on TV and admit that it was a terrible mistake and he felt horrible for it. You had Bill O'Reilly. There were several news anchors that came out. Bill O'Reilly had to come out and say that he was wrong. He admitted this on air when he was on ABC. You had Judith Miller of the New York Times later admit that she was misled by sources. You also had the New York Times. Of course, they buried the correction. But you had all these people come out and admit that they were fed some BS when it came to the sources of how we know that these people are building weapons of mass destruction. Now, like I started out saying, I am not pro-Iran. I honestly take no sides in this because I don't believe in preemptive striking based on a hunch, because it can create something massive. Is this the WMD Lie 2.0? Is Trump potentially about to just destroy his legacy over this reoccurring narrative that they somehow have these weapons of mass destruction? And even if they did have them, so what? Every other country has them.
Pakistan, we don't take an adversarial approach towards them. Why is that? North Korea, they're constantly testing the missiles. Ask Japan how they feel about that. What is it about this particular country that you just have to knock them out? That we shouldn't look at history to answer our questions as to why this is happening today. You're not giving anybody any real intel, you know, because when you listen to Trump speak about it, I don't care what the intelligence community says, they have it and they're working towards it. I just played you the IAEA director. This is what everybody is citing to say, well, they were outside of the Non-Proliferation Act, and people aren't really having a nuanced conversation about that as well. If the Trump administration were to come out and show that they were working on this and that they were absolutely gearing up to, you know, cause some harm to us, I would have no problem with this strike. But this is dangerously close, eerily close to the war on Afghanistan, the war on terror, and the invasion of Iraq. And I feel like we are being actively lied to and gaslit into pretending like these things aren't happening. Like, there's a quote that a lot of right-leaning people like to bring up. Those who don't know history are bound or destined to repeat it. I've heard that over and over and over. I've said that. It is important to know history. But now we're being told, forget history. Charlie Kirk as well. You should just trust Trump. Don't ask questions. Just trust what Trump has to say. And then they repost this. This is what Charlie reposted. A lot of people on this app seem to forget that Trump was their voice when they had none. Zero loyalty. Some would do well to remember the last 10 years and remember there are twists and turns. You did not sign up for a journey that travels a straight line. Why is it that you're being met with such force when you ask questions about what this administration is doing when we have history? You guys remember when Trump was on the stage with Jeb Bush during the 2016 debates, the Republican debates? Hold on. Do you remember this clip?
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. They lied. Okay. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
Like, what if we have all this, not even evidence, but if we have all of this memory, all of this history, because the internet is undefeated, we have all these clips of you speaking out, of you acknowledging that they lied about the weapons of mass destruction. And it's not like the neocons that push that agenda aren't in office as we speak today. They are. So what changed? Marco Rubio and a lot of people on the right are touting this as a win. Marco Rubio has asked a straightforward question. I don't even like CBS. I have no clue who this woman was or is, but I said, you know what? She actually asked a good question. Why not answer it? Check this out.
Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I think that question being asked on the media, that's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
but that is
everything
the
they
key
need to build
point
a
in
weapon.
U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
Do you see how they're changing the lie? When we were coming up, when out in 2003, 4, 5, and beyond, it was they're weeks away from weapons of mass destruction. Right? It's a subtle narrative change. I'm going to play it really quick for you guys again. Listen to what he says.
Asked on the media, that's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
but that is
everything
the
they
key
need to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S.
They have everything they need to build a weapon. The question is, are they And do you have intelligence that the leader ordered weaponization? Because that matters. That matters. Somebody having everything they need to build it, I get that. 100%. But why not watch and see what they're doing? You bomb the Fordow, Natanz, and then the other one. What are they doing there? Because at this point, because of the lack of information and transparency, it looks like you're just purposefully trying to destabilize the region, just like Trump said, and destabilize their economy, which is going to have an adversarial effect. They're going to continue to view us as an adversary, and they might want to strike. I'm not going to sit back and pretend like this country's a bitch. That's what we're doing. You went from saying that they are an existential threat to all of a sudden, because Trump hit these 3 nuclear facilities, oh, they ain't going to do nothing. They effed around and found out. But I thought they had sleeper cells. I thought they had sleeper cells. I thought that they were the mecca of terrorism. They were an existential threat to America, to Israel. Did you take out the weapons that you say they have? We know that you hit the surface, but what does it look like underneath the ground? I'm going to continue playing this. These are the questions that I have. And when I ask people these questions, I'm being called anti-American.
U.S. intelligence assessment, you know
no,
that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But I'm asking you whether the order was given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium?
See what I mean? It's just questions. What they're doing is they're showing you they have no evidence. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like this is not eerily, dangerously close to what happened during the Bush administration. None of that matters. But what does matter is, well, why would they have it? Why are they enriching to 60%? Why would they put it 300 feet or however many feet he said below the ground? Like, why would you do that unless you were hiding something? That's a lot of presupposition. You're adding a bit of conjecture saying, well, they wouldn't do that unless they were building something, right? Right? Let's continue watching.
You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons, because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have.
You see what he said there? The only countries that have 60% of enriched uranium are countries that have nuclear weapons, because they're only 90% away. But what they're not telling you is that 90% is what you need to be at to even create these nuclear weapons. Forget a warhead, forget all the other extra attachments that you need to make it happen, on top of being able to aim it in the right direction. What? Am I tripping? This is not making any sense. Not to me, at least. But let's keep watching.
Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's a question. That's a question of intent, and you know, in the intelligence assessment, that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
But that's also an inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Now, forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%? Right. If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon? Right. Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles?
Dude, all they're doing is asking, why would you do this? Why would you do that? Why would you do this? This is them attempting to sneak in their own nefarious reasons for why Iran is doing this. Once again, I'm going to have to say this. I do not support Iran. I don't support anybody but the United States of America, okay? My concern is how this affects us in the long run. And I'm not going to sit and pretend like these people won't strike back. They will. And we all know they will. But here we are, just playing this game, pretending. And then you have Marco Rubio, who is absolutely a neocon. Well, why would they be having this if that wasn't their intent? Well, why this? Well, why that? Do you have the answers, or are you asking me the answers? And once again, I'm going to play the IAEA, the director. This is the Director General.
We did not find in Iran elements to indicate that there is an active, systematic plan to build a nuclear weapon. We have not seen elements to allow us as inspectors to affirm that there was a nuclear weapon that was being manufactured or produced somewhere in Iran.
Iranian authorities also claim that scientists were assassinated after the identities were shared with the IAEA. Can you confirm if any IAEA reports were ever leaked, intentionally or other ways, to states that may use them to kill, to assassinate? These claims made by Iran.
Absolutely not. How can you imagine? And by the way, we don't have information about addresses, people's lives. Absolutely not.
I wanted to play that just to give full context, just so people can see that I'm not bad faith. I'm asking these questions because we're being told that they are dangerously close to weapons of mass destruction. But I also showed you the media perpetuating this same narrative since 2000. I also showed you Bibi Netanyahu perpetuating this same narrative since well beyond 2000, but 2000 in American media. It's documented. I'm showing you Marco Rubio not answer a single question, but continue to ask you, if they're not doing this, then why this? Then why that? Then why? If they're not doing this, then why that? If you weren't doing this, then why would you do this? Do you have evidence? Or are you trying to find it? Or are you trying to manufacture consent from the American people to get them on board with what you're doing? I'm asking you guys to ask yourselves these questions. Instead of hopping on a side, instead of feeling like I gotta be 10 toes down for Trump, why not be 10 toes down for yourself as an American? People are being attacked for simply asking questions. Stuff that used to be okay to do is now somehow wrong. Or you're somehow trying to come out against Trump, or you were never really MAGA, this, that, and it's just a lot of weird pejoratives, weird silencing of dissent, trying to get you to somehow admit that you support Iran, you support Hamas, because you're asking the tough questions. These are all questions that deserve answers. If I am asking you, do you have evidence that they are actually building weapons of mass destruction? Your answer to me shouldn't be, well, if they weren't, then why would they be doing this? If they weren't, then why this? And I'm gonna play this again. I'm gonna play this to close out the show. I want you guys to listen to what Marco Rubio is saying and ask yourself, why all of a sudden you trust all these never Trumpers? If I'm anti-MAGA and I was never MAGA, ask yourself why you're willing to trust all these people that didn't want him to run in the first place. And ask yourself why they weren't interested in him running or being president. I'm going to close out with this. You guys let me know. Please do me a favor and share this live. If you watched on YouTube, thank you for being here. Share this live. Give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, please subscribe. Thank you to everybody who's watching on Facebook. Please share this. Give it a thumbs up. Ask yourself these questions. And as I'm asking them, you can try to prove me wrong and answer them in the comment section. But I have questions, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having these questions. I think they deserve answers.
Why would you bury things in a mountain 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No. They're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's
they can one day put a warhead on it.
That's a question of intent, and you know in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
That's also an inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon?
Right.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms, they have the enrichment capability, they have the highly enriched uranium that is stored.
Now ask yourself, what delivery mechanisms do they have? And I'm going to answer the question that he asked. Why would they start enriching at 60%? Well, when Trump decided to pull out of the agreement that Obama set in place, right? They remained well below 10% until 2021. 2021 skyrocket up to 60%, and they stay at 60% well into 2024. If you ask me, that seems like leverage. Because if your real intentions were to actually go to 90%, why wouldn't you have just taken off and created the weapons under Biden? Because you know they weren't going to do anything right away. Also, let's play Tulsi Gabbard before we get out of here.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
How close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one.
Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I will catch you guys tomorrow on TikTok. Peace out.
You're watching Make America Think Again, hosted by Sunni.
When you're done getting drunk and you're sober, where you going when the party's over? Where you going when the party's over?